How's it going, everyone? And welcome to another week of the podcast here at Celestia Radio. It is your host, Matthias, as is normal, with my normal co-hosts, Nat and Dorit. How you doing, gents?
G'day, everyone.
Hey, I'm doing all right. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, I'm going alright as well.
I gotta ask how y'all are. It's been a little bit.
Just a tiny bit.
We say that a lot. I listen to our episodes. I say that a lot. It's been a little bit, and that's I need to stop saying that every time. But it's true. It has been a little.
To be fair, you all don't realize this because we have ourselves in such a position where we don't miss a week, but it has actually been a bit.
Yeah, I got sick, so
Yeah, it's stomach
which is a fairly
problems.
normal thing for me.
Yeah.
But so here I'll start us off with a fun fact for you guys.
Oh.
You guys listening and you guys here in the cast, you may not even know this.
Okay, listening.
So did you know when I upload to Spotify, there's a little thing that lets you obviously put the number of the episode in it, but it also lets you put like the season number on there.
Wait, what?
Oh, no, didn't know
So-
that.
Yeah, so we are
Oh.
in season 1.
Oh, right, gotcha.
This has all been season 1. We are in episode 20 whatever of season 1. Yeah, and I saw that when I uploaded for the very first time, and I'm like, that's neat. And I clicked season 1, and have been uploading them under season 1 this entire time. Our Spotify listeners will probably recognize or realize or see that. Obviously, YouTube and Apple probably don't see that quite as much. Maybe on Apple. But yeah, I thought that was really neat, though.
When are we going to get season
Until
2?
we do some kind. Yeah, I knew what you were about to ask.
I was waiting for it.
Until we get some kind of until we do something like to really throw things for a loop, like really change something. Like I don't know, like we go to a video version over on YouTube of all of us or something. I'm gonna leave it as season 1 and only.
That's going to be a long ass time, though, so...
Yeah, and until like I see some kind of substantial change to quantify it, being different enough to be marked as a new season. It's all just season 1.
Okay.
So
Yeah, just 200 episodes of season 1.
hey man, we're just an anime at that point.
Oh, God, that's what it feels like.
Well, an early 2000s anime, anyways.
Yeah.
They're pretty good about keeping those things compact.
Oh, yeah, I guess now they have the whole core system and all that nonsense. Now everything's like 13 episodes, but twice a year for what used to just be, one 26-episode run.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think they've gotten better at compacting all of that. Really, like getting story arcs in there in a neat, concise form. So usually things are presented pretty good. But that's not what we're talking about. That is a conversation to have, and we will probably have at some point. Did we even talk about this in the animation episode? Maybe, I don't know. If we haven't, we will probably talk about it at some point. But that's not what we're here to talk about this week.
Oh, what are we here to talk about, Matthew?
Why do you say it so robotic?
I don't know.
You're doing it intentionally,
Yeah,
right? Am I
I
crazy?
am. I'm
Okay.
kind of like speaking for the audience, more or less. Like asking for them.
So, listeners, I'm going to read you the headline of an article, and I want you to guess what our topic is going to be, and hopefully I don't give it away with the title of this episode.
Spoiler.
This is from VGC by Jordan Middler. Helldivers 2 backlash continues as Sony pulls the game from over 150 regions. So the answer, well, yes, Helldivers 2, but the specific answer is, guys, publishers suck.
Part 2.
Yeah,
Let's fucking
we
go.
are. Part 2. Yeah, we talked about this before, but this is a pretty pitch perfect example of what we mean.
We have this habit, as I've stated before on the cast, of we'll talk about a topic, record our episode, and then like the day after we record, new information or something will go out, and it's just
fucking
like,
clockwork.
every time. It's so annoying. And generally we look really dumb half the time
Yeah.
because of it. But we aren't looking into crystal balls. We're smart like that. But with this one, it was just one of those things where like, no, we're not just gonna ignore this one. This one
It's too big.
we gotta say something. Yeah, it's too big. This is just ridiculous.
Also, Dollar, put your fucking crystal ball away. We told you to do that. You said you were going to
Oh,
do
you're
it.
right. Sorry, I was absent-mindedly pondering.
Bring
Oh,
it back,
what goes
Ed,
away?
But yes.
So yeah, this I don't know, Dalit, I think you're better at like explaining things than me because I kind of stumble over my words a bit more. You want to try and run the like general story of it all
Oh
down?
my god,
Sure.
it's the host this time.
Yeah, I who have not played this game. Why not? So
Well, I mean, you've been reading everything.
I have.
So
I have. Arrowhead Studios in early February dropped a small sleeper hit that everyone now knows as Helldivers 2. No one was prepared for the success. It came out of nowhere and has absolutely taken the entire community by storm.
Oh yeah.
It has, as far as I'm aware, a very, very palatable monetization system, despite being a very, very modern live service game.
Mm-hmm.
So frankly, it really sets itself up to be like the peak of the industry currently,
Right.
doing all of the things that the executives and the publishers want done in a way that is super palatable by, us the gamers. Win-win for everyone, right?
Yeah, would you say this would be like the golden goose or the new golden standard?
I would absolutely call it a golden goose.
Yeah,
I wouldn't call it the golden standard because we're not 100% sure
Right.
where that bar should be set. So
Like-
maybe it is, maybe it's not.
Yeah, this is like before the pre-PSN stuff, but like when it first came out, you would say like this would be the new gold standard.
No,
Or
I'm not sure.
Golden goose, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, a golden goose, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like this is something that was doing so much work for the PC and PSN crowds because they were able to play together. It was crossplay, right? Yeah,
It was crossplay, yeah. And for reference, on the success of it here, it ranked both top 10 overall of in the first quarter of 2024 in like earnings. It was in the top 10 of earnings overall, and then in the top 10 of new games in 2024 as well.
Yeah.
So
That's
it was
insane.
I was doing incredible for just, and keep in mind, this is going up against some of those AAA titles that are like $70. This game was $30, I think. Out the gate, yeah. And it's doing that well. It was incredible, and it was one of those moments of solidarity in the
Gaming
gaming
community.
Yeah, because you had the PC players, you had the PlayStation players, and both PC and PlayStation players were like, "Hey, let's get Xbox in on this. We need more players. Come on, join us."
True.
Yeah.
And we didn't get that.
Small
obviously.
problem with that. Small problem.
Yeah.
It's a Sony.
Continue the story now, Dalit.
So, actually, I'll use that as a jumping off point. So, community wants more players in. Xbox seems like the logical next step, except this is technically a Sony IP. Why is that
Yep.
important? Well, in the past, how long has it been? A week? 10 days?
It's been about 4 days.
4 days. God. Oh, man. Jeez, time flies. It felt like it was forever. So it's been about
It might
4
only
days.
be 3, but I'll say 4.
No, I'm going to give myself grace. It's been about 4 days. And 4 days ago, we learned something rather not great.
The
So,
publishers
in order
got
to
involved.
continue, in order to continue playing Helldivers, this almost sure nomination for Game of the Year,
Yep.
maybe not de facto winner, but definitely a strong nomination.
Oh, absolutely.
Sony has decided that you have to link it to a PSN account. So, for someone like me, not much of a problem. I have a PSN account. I have a Steam account. They can be linked. No issue.
Same here in Australia.
But that's not applicable for everyone.
Oh yeah.
So,
According to SteamDB, Steam database, there are 177 countries where that's not available, as Helldivers 2 is no longer purchasable.
Mm-hmm.
so you would assume that Sony, in their infinite wisdom, would just say, okay, if you have access to a PSN account, we're asking you to link it. If you don't, we'll find a way around. You would think that, and you would be wrong.
Yeah.
So
Thinking of the smart thing
after,
to do, and you're wrong.
yeah, I mean, after 4 months, Sony has essentially cut off all avenues for play for people in 171 countries.
4 days. You said 4 months.
No, 4 months.
Oh,
People have had this game for 4 months.
Oh right.
And
yeah.
after 4 months of having this game, they have suddenly cut it off.
Yeah. Right. Sorry. Yeah, I understand. Yep.
Yeah, and admittedly, they only had 4 days to get their stuff in order, so that's ridiculous.
So hopefully in 4 hours they will change this policy. Correct? Right? Right?
Well, yeah, sure. I wouldn't hold my breath. So the reason why we're on this is because Sony's obviously the one publishing this. This is an Arrowhead developed game, and I think a lot of people have missed that over the course of a lot of arguments here. Actually, it's probably become incredibly apparent over the last day where people finally figured it out, because Arrowhead was catching a lot of hell.
Oh,
and I
yeah.
understand why.
Arrowhead was catching a lot in that first day, but I think people picked up on it on the second day. Because
I don't know about that. There are people who today are still absolutely clowning on Arrowhead. It's very impressive what just angry people are blinded by.
Ignorance, right? Because
Correct.
I mean, it doesn't take much to see it, because you have all of the Arrowhead devs going on public platforms saying, "Hey, this isn't us. Hey, we're against this, just like you all. We're fighting it, trying to do this for you." Heck, I think one of the devs even posted in the official Discord for Helldivers 2, like, "Hey, keep up the negative review bomb that's been going on."
Yes.
Because it gives us fuel to fight Sony with. Like, they have been gung-ho for the players, for the fans, in all of their anger. They're like, "We support this because this is messed up. This isn't us." So people throwing strays at them are just refusing to see the obvious, that it's not them. Like, no, this is Sony.
This is well, I don't know if it's unprecedented. Amongst games that I'm aware of, this is kind of unprecedented. I'm not used to a game being out for multiple months and then suddenly being taken away. And the reason why that's such a big issue, and why Sony as the publisher is entirely to blame on this, is because it didn't have to be this way. We had 4 months of a game that worked entirely well on its own, not bug-free. Forgive the pun. Oh God. But it was a mostly supremely playable product. There was no need for this. I'm still honestly not entirely sure what Sony's public-facing reason for this is.
So I want to say,
I don't
because
think money in this case.
I looked at the original Steam post. So here is the original Helldivers 2 Steam post, right? And again, why people are throwing strays at Arrowhead, when at the bottom of this post it even says this is from Sony, not from Arrowhead. Again, people just refuse to read what's right in front of them. But due to technical issues at the launch of Helldivers 2, we allowed the linking requirements for Steam accounts to a PlayStation Network account to be temporarily optional. That grace period will now expire. See details below in this post. Account linking plays a critical role in protecting our players and upholding the values of safety and security provided on PlayStation and PlayStation Studio games.
Just
this is our main way to protect players from griefing and abuse by enabling the banning of players that engage in that type of behavior. It also allows those players that have been banned the right to appeal.
Okay, so this is
more there, but
it is the tried and true response of all of the major publishing houses. This is actually exceptionally common we hear it from Nintendo all the time. It's why Nintendo doesn't cross over
Yeah.
with anyone. And I think Sony has said this before, and I don't think Microsoft has had to say this, though I'm almost certain I have to be wrong about that. Because yeah, this is very much a corporate thing, and I do believe that's their reasoning. It's definitely what I was going to assume, was that this was so that Sony would have some measure of control over what's the word I'm looking for?
Banning people.
Punitive action, not punitive. God, that sounds so aggressive. Essentially, if they would ever need to, punish someone, or if someone who has been banned needed to appeal, they'd have a way to do it.
Yeah. Or an easier way to do it.
My big takeaway, exactly, like a direct way. It wouldn't have to be like through
because
getting thrown around from a bunch of various customer representatives.
Yeah, because Helldiver devs have, well, at least one of them has stated and said that they can ban people without this whole PSN thing. It's just that it is much more easier and direct to ban people when they have a PSN account linked to the game.
That is almost certainly entirely bullshit, but I'll allow them to say it.
Okay. That's what they said. I'm just repeating it, so,
Yeah, that's almost certainly a fucking lie.
Also, just a quick answer to your question about Microsoft. I think possibly maybe Halo when it came to the PC, but I don't remember anything along of those lines.
So the thing with Microsoft in that entire thought process is Microsoft accounts are by or Microsoft accounts, right? Your Xbox account is linked to a Microsoft account like on creation.
Yeah.
And Microsoft accounts are used on computers already.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on.
People.
This is only true of the last 7 or 8 years.
That's true.
Because before that, remember, we had that awful sign-in that Microsoft made you do for their games.
Windows Live. Yeah.
Everyone is happy. Windows Live.
Yeah, I remember.
Everyone is happy as gold
on PC. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The well, what I was getting at was when you made an Xbox account, you had a Microsoft account. When you played on PC, well, most of the time you were playing on a Microsoft Windows computer, so you had a Microsoft account. So that was never a thing, and it was usually automatic for most things. There was some games back then where before it was really polished, where it wasn't very automatic, as y'all have stated.
Mm-hmm.
But that has been polished out, so you don't see it as much for Xbox, because Microsoft is already kind of like hand in hand with PC on that.
Correct.
So it's a little bit of a weird territory. I'll say.
Yeah, that's why I was like hesitant to say Halo, but like that's like the only game I could truly think of that might do something like that. But again, I don't remember.
The big takeaway from what you said, Matthew, the thing that I knew to be true because I looked it up, but I hadn't heard anyone talking about, was that this was in play from the start. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, Sony's still scummy for this. Like, Sony's absolutely still scummy for this.
Oh, yeah.
But this is a case of not reading the terms of service.
So no, this was an optional thing. It never said you needed to, never said you should, never said anything like that.
I'm pretty sure what you just read literally said, we only temporarily suspended this.
No, he's talking about the...
Which implies that...
Well, I've been playing the game since launch.
Yes.
You're talking...
And it never says anything in there. It never even mentions a PlayStation account to you when you open this game.
Well, yes, it's because they ran into issues with it, and they've had it not in the game yet.
Right, but they never put out a notice saying, "Hey, this is temporarily not happening."
What did you just read? I'm confused now.
They said they did. They said,
but they never.
Due to technical issues at the launch of Helldivers 2, we allowed the linking requirements for Steam accounts to a PlayStation Network account to be temporarily optional. This grace period will now expire. You can see details below in the actual PlayStation blog post.
So you're calling out Arrowhead for lying then, yes? And that
I'm calling out Sony and maybe Arrowhead as well, because they never made that clear that this was a temporary suspension. I
Okay,
played the
interesting.
game in its first
Fair.
few weeks. I followed all the dev updates, the blog post stuff, or not blog posts, but like posts on social media and
Right,
things
of
like
course.
that. I never saw anywhere in all my time, and maybe I missed it, but me and tons of other people apparently never saw anything about being this
No,
being
that's fair.
temporary
Like I said,
thing. So
my
they didn't put this out there. And to further that point a little bit, that post, the on Steam, that original post was posted on May the 3rd. If you went to Sony's like
Facts and questions.
FAQ,
Yep. I was
yeah,
going to bring that
it
up.
says that there's a question on this: is do I have to sign into a PSN to play a PlayStation game on PC? And then the answer is sign into a PSN is optional when playing a PlayStation game on PC.
Yeah.
The very next day, their website was changed to where do I have to sign into a PSN to play a PlayStation game on PC? Some PlayStation games may require you to sign in and link to an account for PSN.
Yeah, it was a stealth change.
This was not a necessary thing. This was something they stealth changed overnight after making the post and realizing that they said before this was not a mandatory thing. This was a optional.
Fair enough. I came into this fairly recently when all of this kicked off. I do not play the game. So when I went looking for information, I saw that you needed this third-party account. So all of the stuff that I've read has always seemed to be that this was a known factor. Evidently it wasn't. Fair enough. Back to the main point.
Somebody let me know in the comments if I'm wrong, but like I said, I've not seen anything. I've watched tons of people playing it and they've never seen anything because everybody was taken by surprise on Twitter, and I'm talking about a lot of people. So
yeah, and like I said, I literally came into this after all of that, so they would have had time to change it by time I saw any of this.
Yeah.
So in that way, that does offer quite a bit of heat for Arrowhead. But at the end of the day, I'm always hesitant to put a whole bunch of blame on devs for anything that isn't a technical failing of the game. For instance, Cyberpunk being a mess is absolutely CDPR's fault.
Yep.
They made a game that was not ready to be launched.
Yeah.
This game came out, worked fine.
Mm-hmm.
They overpromised. It took more work than they thought. Publishers said you need to put the game out faster, and they just put out an incomplete product basically with Cyberpunk.
Yeah, but where it's different from this is Arrowhead was able to put out a completed product, and it worked, and for 4 months, everyone rejoiced. Because it was you and your fellow citizens against the bug and robot menace.
With word on the horizon of a third faction coming.
Sony themselves.
Well, unfortunately, the third faction's going to see a whole lot less in terms of the population it fights against, it seems.
Yeah.
Back on topic with the point of the episode, despite Arrowhead not being innocent in all this, and I'm sure they were blindsided by a lot of different things as well, Sony is the one that, at the end of the day, that's causing the big problem.
The big stinker.
Arrowhead did their part.
Yeah, they made the game.
They made the game.
Yep.
They marketed they were marketed it out. People came and people were enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
Now suddenly Sony has decided to throw a wrench into these plans, and it gets to a point of being a really curious thing because presumably you would want the biggest possible audience, especially in a live service game.
More money for the company and publishers.
This is almost certainly, even under the very best possible scenario where no one complains.
Yep.
Not that. Even if everyone in the entire world were on board, Sony knows that they don't have the reach globally to account for all these players through PSN. So
yeah, I mean, when majority of these fucking countries are just outright banned from making, well, not banned, but like can't just make a PSN account, they don't factor in those sales for those countries.
if I had to put a guess as to why this probably doesn't bother Sony very much. Is because whilst it's a majority of countries, it's probably a surprising minority of players. Oh, people are not going to like that take.
Yeah,
But
no,
fact of the matter is, the biggest populations will be served by PSN.
exactly, which would be
That's
America,
true,
and
yeah.
UK, and Australia, and
The Americas, most of Europe, Australia, Japan,
hmm
probably most
So
of Asia.
the thing
to be
about that
honest.
is, the thing about that is here, as far as I've seen, anyways, right? The community with Helldivers was very. There was a community bond that was like an unspoken bond that was formed because the people, even in these big regions, are angry for those players that are affected
Yeah,
by it.
of course.
Even if
Yeah,
it is a
rightfully
minority,
so.
they're
course.
upset. Yeah, and they're sticking up for them, right?
Yeah.
Like I mentioned already, there's massive review bombs happening right now on Steam for the game. By the end of the second day, the overall review of the game went from like whatever the wording Steam has for like the highest positiveness, right?
Overwhelmingly
Overwhelmingly
positive.
positive
Overwhelmingly
to-
positive, yeah. Overwhelmingly negative
Yeah.
in 2 days. The overall reviews, not even just the recent, like the overall
So
in 2 days went to the complete opposite because of the massive review bombs.
so
And then to go ahead.
the actual number at the time of this recording is 259,861.
Negative reviews.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Mhm.
So very, very quickly, because what I'm about to say is mostly it's a bit of a party pooper,
Oh.
and it shouldn't take away from the community rallying together for people who are getting absolutely screwed on this. I think a lot of people are full of shit. I
Uh-oh.
think more people than not are mostly just angry that they have to sign into PSN because they don't want to.
Probably.
I think there
I
are
still
plenty
think
of
that's
people who
valid.
are very angry that their friends in the Virgin Islands, the Philippines, Vietnam, all of these places can't play their games. This I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe that the majority of people just do not want to use PSN. And
No,
even
100%
with
I agree
this,
to that.
that's fair. Frankly, I don't play Ubisoft games or EA games on Steam anymore because I have to sign in through their launcher. I just don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I just wish people wouldn't make up excuses.
It does feel like a bit made up. Anyone that does say that, I'm not saying that I've seen a lot of people say that, but there have been people that are saying that, and it does feel a bit made up. And a lot of it probably is people just don't want to sign into PlayStation.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know. I semi disagree. I think it's still a valid response, but it's also one of those like, I don't want to sign in, and they're also
Oh, no
fucking
one's saying
over
it's not a
the other
valid
countries.
response.
No, nobody's saying it's not.
Yeah,
a
no
valid
one's saying it's not a
response.
valid response. I absolutely think it's a valid
Right.
response. I think
Yeah, it's a
people are
super valid
just
response.
hiding behind this sense of nobility.
Right.
But the thing, like we mentioned towards the beginning of this and in the middle there, this game has made a lot of money. Like it's
Oh,
hit
yeah.
top
Oh, yeah.
tens.
At the end of the day,
The
this
game-
is a monetized live service game.
Right. The thing is, Steam is issuing refunds. No matter how much playtime you have in
Yep.
this game, they are issuing refunds.
Oh, so they came out and they said that
Yep.
because as of this
Yep.
morning, they were very much not.
Nope. Even if
Multiple
you have over
people
100
have
hours,
been have already been very angry on Twitter about not getting refunds. So I'm very happy to see that has been changed.
Yeah.
I've not seen anybody be denied a refund. I've seen a lot of people get the refund.
Yeah.
I've
know it
seen a lot
was-
of content creators get refunds. I saw a tremendous amount of people, just random folks, get absolutely denied because they bought the game in February and have more than 2 hours. Which is why this is fucking devious from Sony, in my opinion. By the way.
Yes.
Like this,
Yeah.
this is the biggest issue that I have, is because now, forget the people who don't want to log into PSN. For the people who quite literally cannot play this game, there is, with the exception of morally speaking, there is legally no reason for Steam to refund them.
Yeah.
They have
So
had,
I don't. Go ahead.
yeah, some people have had upwards of 4 months worth of gameplay.
Yeah. And
That is,
Um,
in many games, an entire lifetime. And I'm not saying they shouldn't get their refunds. For anyone listening, I absolutely believe everyone in this situation should be getting a refund if they want it.
yes.
But, like, this is why this is such a fucked up position. Like, this is morally bankrupt.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And it's going to torpedo this game. And while Sony has all the rights in the world to do this, I don't know what they expected the reaction to be other than abject frustration. As we've said, we didn't have any idea that PSN was so unavailable in so many locations, right?
No, I had no idea about
I've
that.
seen.
But-
I mean, I never even thought to look into that.
I-
But Sony did. So this is fucking brain dead.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like I don't know if the refunds are like being exclusive to those regions that have lost it, that's been pulled from. I don't have that information.
So
I didn't look
that-
into much on
I
that.
think
I
that
just
might be
saw
the case.
originally. So it might be. I just saw originally that people were requesting refunds. They weren't getting refunds. Then it was, yes, they were getting refunds. Like they weren't getting refunds because they played over the 2 hour mark, right? Then I saw they are issuing refunds to people who have played over 2 hours. And then this morning, when I saw something about they were giving refunds to people who have even over 100 hours.
mhm.
Good.
So-
Good.
But
'Cause
I don't know if that is everywhere or in just those regions. I don't know. I didn't. There was that information was not provided to me. I did not look into it. I was very busy this morning, so it was
Okay.
just kind of a. I saw it in between doing my work, so I was like, okay, that's good. They're
I
giving
hope-
refunds.
Obviously it's for everyone. Because frankly, this is great. This is both good and absolutely horrendous for Steam, believe it or not.
Yes.
Technically, Steam doesn't have anything they don't have to do anything. It's been 4 months. There's nothing wrong with the game. Sony obviously won't be refunding this, as that would be an admission of guilt.
Yeah.
And they'll say that anyone who wants to continue to play can do so. But of course, that would mean for all of the countries that don't have access to PSN natively, they would have to break terms of service to make an account. Because they can make an account. They'll just have to lie in their
VPN.
admissions,
Yeah,
right?
and then when they get caught,
No. Not even a VPN. You just say you're from a different country. Yeah, so long as you have access to the Sony site, it's fine.
Right.
You can get a PlayStation 5 where PSN doesn't exist, clearly.
Mhm.
But going against the TOS itself has issues.
Yeah.
Like, it allows you to be suspended or have your whole account erased down the line if it's proven that you lied during the initial
Yeah, they
the
will
initial
literally
creation.
just IP block you. Or IP block
Exactly.
you.
So that's hugely problematic.
Yeah, it
and now
is.
Steam has to balance, do we want to continue having a very good relationship with Sony,
No,
which would
fuck.
be very big for both companies,
Yeah.
or do we want to look absolutely
Based.
based for our player base, which is admittedly entirely within their character?
And I think they've chosen the correct option.
If that's
Mm.
true, which I hope it is. I just
Okay, yeah.
I didn't see the update,
Yeah,
so
yep.
I as far as I was
So-
concerned, they were still playing the middle ground.
Right.
I did miss a little bit of what y'all said because I was reading this just because I thought I read it recently and I was right. In that same VGC article that I mentioned at the top of the episode,
Mhm.
it says in there, so while now due to PSN not being available in over 150 countries, where Helldivers 2 was previously purchasable in Steam, the game has been delisted in them according to a Steam database.
Yes.
While players from any region can create a PSN account for any other region, with little fuss, the lack of official support for the feature has seemingly forced Steam's hand. Alongside this, players are reporting that the service is issuing refunds for the game regardless of playtime.
Cool.
Typically,
Cool.
players have 2 hours to decide whether or not they want a refund, but Valve has seemingly relaxed these rules in the wake of the PSN change.
How old is this piece again, man? It would be good to at the time of this recording.
article?
Yeah, at the time of this recording.
At the time of this recording, this article is 14 hours, I want to say.
There we go.
Yeah,
Old.
that
There we go.
that might as well be Might as well be like right now.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool.
It also said at the
Fantastic.
top of the article something I want to read as well because it seems relevant. So on Friday, Sony announced about the Steam version of Helldivers require players to sign in with a PlayStation Network account. It then says that this change, which was present at the game's launch but then removed, caused a huge backlash. So I have been playing this game since, I will say, to be specific, since near launch. I think I started playing it like 3 days after launch.
Right.
Breaking news! Breaking news!
Oh,
Breaking news!
Oh, let's go. What's up?
Helldivers fans, this is from @PlayStation on X. Helldivers fans, we've heard your feedback on the Helldivers 2 account linking update. The May 6th update, which would have required Steam and PlayStation Network account linking for new players and current players beginning on May 30, will not be moving forward.
Hey, Helldivers 2.
Yeah, there we
There's
go.
There's more.
Breaking news.
Next topic.
We're still learning what's best for PC players, and your feedback has been invaluable. So, a couple things to take away from this, because that's fucking great. Voice your concerns, always. That's what this
Yeah.
is.
First off, yes, 100%.
If you have a gripe with something, especially as massive as this, use your voice. Because
It's been so, wow, god damn, that was...
good job.
I'm
Dom.
really happy we didn't wait to talk about this now.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah, this is great.
Uh,
So it is one of those things. Yeah, definitely voice your concerns, right?
Absolutely.
This is something you should always do. I am hesitant with review bombing things because I've seen varying levels of success with that across varying different IPs
Yeah.
and media, and so it's one of those things that I don't know that necessarily review bombing is the way to go.
it's
But
not.
the
It
mass,
never is.
yeah, but
It's
yeah,
too
but the mass
inconsistent.
outcry on social medias, the refunds, I'm sure there were posts on to Sony's like what is it, customer support or whatever, like tons of other outlets that were getting things, like I'm sure it was getting flooded. It's 170 something countries, right?
Mhm. 177.
That there are that is got players in it. You have the vast majority that are complaining about it, whether for altruistic or just laziness, whatever. People are complaining about it. So
Holy shit, that was 8 minutes ago.
voicing your opinion is super big.
Absolutely.
Especially when something like this. And I want to say, I'm not going to praise Sony for this.
No, do not.
But like, it's one of those things. Kudos to them for not doubling down, because there are a lot of publishers out there that would double down.
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, I think a vast majority of people would have just assumed that Sony was going to double down.
I thought they were going to double down.
Same.
I won't lie. I thought they were going to double down. But I am impressed that they decided to take the feedback and the clear loss I'm sure they were taking in some way
Yeah.
from this. Yeah. That and they did step back off of it. So, kudos to them for doing that. I'm not going to praise them in any regard, but I will give them, like a pat on the back saying you did the right thing this time. Good job.
This time. Now let's just wait until
I will
next
talk down
time.
to them like a small child.
Yeah, sometimes you do need to treat publishers like fucking small children sometimes.
But yeah, Dot, you said there were a couple things to take away from this. What was one of the other things?
Yeah, just... I mean, I kind of do want to mention, I don't think, just for the sake of argument, I don't think review bombing works, because review bombing only ever happens to very popular games that everyone's going to hear about anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That just ruins the scoring going forward and makes makes distributors less likely to take fan feedback seriously.
True.
Yeah.
See, that's I'm
No, it
have no
absolutely
reason to
does.
disagree.
Why would I
Yeah.
now ever let you have your opportunity to write a review if you'll just change it when you don't like something?
I'm in 100% agreement with you on that one. Like, 9 out of 10 times review bombing has never worked.
And yet,
And
here we are.
like
the
the
one
1 out of 10 times
that
it
happened
does
like
work.
fucking 10 minutes ago. The one.
I
time.
don't think this is from the review bombing.
I don't think
I,
it's
So,
I, I think
what
it
I
does have a part though.
No, I don't think it does.
Oh, okay.
I think what this comes down to is people getting together on all the public forums. Well, in this case, really just Twitter.
Twitter, yeah.
And being
I'm sure
very
Sony and
vocal
everything got stuff.
about Sony not just having done something stupid, because if it was just Sony doing a normal stupid thing, they wouldn't have backed up.
Yeah.
And then literally taking away access from people who have no alternative.
Yeah.
That's the part that I think really forced Sony's hand here.
They were
Is
like,
Sony
"Oh,
is
shit."
unambiguously in the wrong, and were essentially taking away a game with no recourse.
Yeah.
And as many people as were requesting refunds, and then, according to that article, were in fact getting those refunds. I have to assume that's coming out of Sony's pocket to refund it, right? Steam's
It's coming out of
Steam the one
Steam.
going to be getting hit
yeah.
by that?
It's Steam who gets hit by it. Arrowhead and a small part of Sony, to be sure.
But they will have
I don't
the-
think Sony gets hurt by that short term. I think if this actually all went through in the long run, maybe Sony actually does actually take a huge financial L. But
Right.
the fact that it's
Well,
been
so-
only a day since the refunds were going through, I don't think there were enough people that were getting refunds for
Well, so
it.
no, my question was more: is the money that's being refunded, is that coming back out of Sony's pocket, or is Steam having to
I
front
think
that?
Steam has to. But
Steam,
here's
because
the
it's on their
service. It's on, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That being said, though, when they do refund, they do get God, I can't say that word. They get a stat which they can give to Arrowhead, and then Arrowhead can give it to Sony. But like again, I don't know if Sony fucking even cares about those stats from Arrowhead about all the refunds and all that. But it's as Dollar says. I think the biggest part is just at least 100+ countries just could not play it anymore. Just all of us.
Optically, this was a nightmare.
Yeah.
And
It certainly doesn't paint a good picture.
yeah, and Sony is in a place where they're the top dogs, and they thought they could weather a small
Oh no.
storm of angry people, and didn't realize the storm was not small.
The losses are negligible.
Oh god. This is literally a game that was going to be, and still now is likely going to be, a nomination. Not actually the Game of the Year, but definitely a nomination for Game of the Year.
I think it would still be Game of the Year, especially.
I don't think so.
I don't think it's going to win it.
My
but
guy,
no,
seven,
but like-
seven came out, and fucking Wukong might be great. I don't think. I really like I really like the way that everyone likes this game. I don't know that it's Game of the Year. Definitely a nom though.
I still think. Oh, there's a
Well,
possibility.
yeah, maybe it is. So regardless, my point is it has the capacity to be in that conversation, right?
Yeah.
So regardless,
And that's not ruined now.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Potentially not. Potentially not ruined.
we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. A little early to say that, I realize. But I mean, the potentially, it's not ruined now. We'll
Yeah.
see, because it does depend. Do the players that refunded it, do they come back, or are they soured
come
on
back.
it?
Yeah, because they have the money to buy it again. Because they got.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
But the question is just like, are they soured on the game? Like, do they not trust that they're not?
I
gonna do
reckon
something
they are
else again
soured
kind
on
of
the
thing?
game for the time being, and then they'll get over it and come back to it.
I agree with Nat. I think the moment anyone who doesn't come back immediately is probably just putting up a front until new content gets dropped, and then they're gonna fold like a house of cards.
Yep.
I agree. I just want to put the question out there because
Oh yeah.
I think any of these people that did refund it or whatever were enjoying the game but couldn't play it, right?
well, now-
or were against it from some moral standpoint or whatever.
Well, now that Sony has set the precedence that they've thought about doing something like this, and now it's backfired, and they're moving back on it, backpedaling on it. What's stopping Sony from doing something stupid in a different path? And and people are just jaded and don't want to deal with Sony's bullshit for Helldivers once again in the future.
Because people don't think that long.
Oh.
I don't think that anyone who wasn't already going to buy Sony products is even considering. Let me back up. Anyone who was already going to buy the Sony products ported to PC is still going to do it.
Right.
Anyone who wasn't probably is going to look at this, and for a set amount of time, probably won't. But this is the kind of story that gets forgotten about in a couple of months because it has a happy ending.
Yeah.
So the other takeaways were Dalit.
Right. Crap, I kept getting interrupted. I have no idea what they were.
Oh,
Let's
sorry.
think about this. So you have everyone being shown that if you band together and you start having the conversation, you can enact change. And moreover, if you hit the right pain points, you can. And in this particular case, those pain points are the truth. Like, straight up, this was not actually bullying of Sony. This was a bunch of customers pointing out a major flaw.
Oh, yeah.
So that's pretty good.
I also want to say that it's worth pointing out that you may not agree, but I still think this is one of those moments where having a good dev team that sticks up for their fans is also a big part, because I've seen no reason to say that the majority of the Arrowhead actual dev team in charge of this game was ever okay with this, and that has been working against it. So
possibly. Again, I mean, I don't know the person, and sometimes they tweet, sometimes they talk in Discord, so like I don't know, maybe they were with us, or it might be half and half fence sitting, but if they're truly on our side and they helped us, then kudos to them. But these are
But
developers.
no, I'm 100% on the dev side. Are you kidding me? I think the devs absolutely didn't want this to happen.
Right.
I think a lot of people saw that one
Community manager.
Community manager, thank you, and just decided, well, they represent Arrowhead, so now fuck the entire dev unit. That's stupid.
Yeah,
That's incredibly stupid.
Yeah, but like,
because we all like, let's be real here. We all play a game with an incredible dev team that is like hand in hand with its fan base, right? And we see the power of that regularly. I think this is one of those things that serves as an example of having a dev team that is hand in hand with their fan base and fighting for their fan base. That's a good thing,
right?
Like, and I think I think more devs should do that. And
I agree.
Like, so I that's something I wanted to put in there. Sorry, I know I interrupted again after asking you to go on with those points, but I wanted to put that out there.
Forget the points. All in all, the important ideas around this whole we do nowadays have to be extraordinarily careful with games because we don't own anything, right?
Yeah.
And this is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, Sony can literally just take away your games whenever the fuck they feel like it.
Steam, who has already said they have fail safes involved, if they were to suddenly die tomorrow, you wouldn't have your library either.
Oh yeah. Bye.
Let's not assume malice. We actually do not own the games. If you bought anything digitally, you don't own it. If you bought it physically, there's a good chance you still don't own it.
Nowadays.
Yeah. Internet requirements and all that shit.
This now does take the talking points of this episode away from publishers suck, just right to game ownership, essentially.
No publishers still sucks.
No.
Well, no, I mean, like, yes, because publishers
it's a little
still
bit of both, right?
suck. But I mean, like, if anything, what this shows me is that there is room for change, and like this.
Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, this is a happy ending. And
yes,
agreed. This is a good ending.
This is Sony
Whether it ends up
doing
being
a
the best
stupid
ending or not,
and
will
being
see. But at
backed
least
on the
it's a good
nose and realizing, okay.
ending. And like, it remains to be seen how good of an ending, but it is a good ending, right?
Yes.
So,
Also, holy
um,
crap! This was all breaking news, by the way. This is all subject to change again.
yeah, yeah. This is subject to change. Literally, like looking at notes, looking at newsfeed, and we seeing it pop up, right?
Mm.
So, it as for like the topic point, it is one of those things, right? Like we could transition to the whole you don't own anything, and I think it'd be better to stick to talking about the publishers, but we'll see where the conversation goes, right? Um, because yes, the warning should be there. With a digital age and digital games, you don't own anything. Like we've made that apparent
Mm-hmm.
through a few different episodes at this point,
Yep.
right? We were talking about media conservation, lost media, that stuff. We talked about how those digital games, like on phones and stuff, once they're gone, they're gone. You don't own it,
I
right?
mean,
Um,
we can sort of turn into what we've. No, I know we want to save that, but I was gonna say like how Dissidia shut down. We know the real reason, and also
No,
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
different
yeah,
episode.
yeah. But
That's a
like,
different
yeah,
episode.
like we can turn it down there, but let's not. Let's save that. Um, but yeah, you're right,
but
Matt.
it's like we could say that, but I feel like that is in and of itself a whole episode to itself if we really wanted, but it's also just a warning we've consistently put out there and maybe not even needed of an episode, right?
Right.
We've said time and again, you got to be careful with these things, and this is a good example of it. With digital content, you don't necessarily own it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Heck, even back with physical games, there's an argument to be said you don't necessarily own it. Even if you own the physical copy of the game, you can play it or whatever. You don't own that IP, you don't own those characters, anything like that. So it's a
Right.
little out of your hand in that regard. So that's a warning to be sure and one to repeat, and we have said can keep repeating. Um,
And we should keep on
but I
repeating.
think the better way to take from this is yes, this is a good ending, but this is a good this is also an even better example of why publishers suck. Like look at the trouble and the problems that they cause. There is no real connection between these publishers and the people that buy the games that buy their product. Hey, half the time there's no real connection between the publishers and the devs. They don't the publishers just fund it, say hey make it, you make us money.
Yeah.
They don't
This is the
interact
deadline. You
much
have
more
this amount of
beyond that
time. If
sometimes.
you do not, if you have a somewhat working fucking game, we're gonna release it regardless. Like it's just like, come on, bro. Just let the devs fucking
Well,
make the games.
hold on. Hold on.
Oh, no.
You got a bit far away from where I'm comfortable standing now. I don't like the actions of devs recently. However, I absolutely know why they exist, and I absolutely understand that having them as a small developer is not only a boon, but in many ways necessary in order to get games like this.
Right.
So I am not going to take the stand and say publishers are full stop evil and bad and we shouldn't have them.
Okay, okay. They're 95% evil. All right. Okay, I'll give them the
Not
points.
even that. I will
Okay, I'm
say
joking.
that publishers have a bit too much sway in
How?
the actual development process.
Yes, exactly.
I think that the fact that the the organization that is putting the game out for the people, actually publishing the work,
Mm-hmm.
has anything to do with anything not in its contract is wild. I also wonder if publisher is no longer the best name for what these companies do, because they are in many ways they're part of the dev cycle. They're obviously they're not sitting there coding, right?
Yeah,
But
I know what you're talking about, but my only rebuttal to that is go onto a game on Steam and it says developer name, publisher name, and I just go with that. That's just easy and concise.
Yes? Question mark.
Hold on. I'm. What do you mean, Dalit? Like,
So,
explain a little
okay,
more for me here.
so publishers are technically part of developing a game, right? But they're not sitting there coding and modeling and all that. They're more like not stockholders, but like they're the marketeers and all that. They market the game and all that.
That's why they do a lot of the funding for
Yeah,
it
and the funding,
generally,
yeah,
and then
the
they do
financial
and
shit.
they tend to help with the marketing side.
Yes,
Tend to.
and that
Um,
also is part of development, because if you make a game and there's no advertisements, no one's gonna know you've made a fucking game. So
for sure, but I still don't see the whole publishers are part of the dev cycle, because I mean that's just publishing, right? Because even before games, with
No,
publishing of
you're right.
books,
Like if you talk about
that
book publishing, it's like that. So the reason I said that is because, again, without these publishers, those devs don't get the money that they want.
yeah, that's correct.
right.
Which I think, in and of itself, just that point alone,
Helps
is
with the
big
development.
enough.
Yeah,
No, not helps. In many cases, is the only way.
yeah,
Other than like nowadays we have crowdfunding, but that's 50-50
mhm.
because sometimes people just run away with the money.
Yeah,
And sometimes those crowdfunding games that do go through still end up needing publishers' help somewhere down the
Also
line.
that. I mean, we saw it with Shenmue, and that game was fucking trash on release anyway. But there's a lot about the publishers that also work between the games and various studio intermingling. Like it is more than just money, and there is, in the very best cases, because I can't say this about everything, it is their job for providing resources, full stop, not just money,
yeah,
but the resources to get the game made. So if they have to go shake hands with another studio to bring them in and bring extra workers in,
mhm.
if they have to,
So I see what you're saying, but I think I still don't think calling publishers devs.
no. Publishers and devs are separate, but publishers have a hand in the development cycle.
Yeah, that I agree
Without
with
the
all of it.
publishers, the devs can't do their work.
Unless the developers want to pay out of pocket, but
And then they don't get to finish their product, or it takes 20 years.
yeah, exactly.
But no, I don't think publishers are developers. No.
Okay, so I see what you're saying, and I know you're right, but something about the wording I don't agree with, and I'm not sure why. It's I'm trying to think of how to word this. It's one of those things like because publishers are doing the same thing in games, right? That publishers do with books and like anything that is made by a different party and then connected to the audience, right?
Sure.
Shake the hands, they provide the funding.
Yeah, they'll bring
such
on
and
an
so forth.
editor, they'll bring on...
Right.
Yeah, of course.
These are all things that a publisher, does, whether it be for video games, for books, for technology in general, I guess, in some aspects. I just don't know that to me, I don't know if that's a part of the development cycle. I think there should be a different word for that, because that has nothing to do with the development of it,
Except
right? That has
it
nothing to do.
does.
That has nothing to do with the making of it. 'Cause
If
that's
you're
what develop
bringing
means. It
in,
means
if you're
to
bringing
make.
in people to make the game, if you're bringing in technology to make the game,
You're funding it.
no, not money. Going out and getting the resources and bringing in. A lot of publishers will bring in like contractors or a whole other studio to ensure that the game gets made.
That's adding to the development team, sure, and that's doing the publisher's job, but I still don't think that's development. and this is very critical to the definition, right? Because they're not making the game. They're not. Their hands aren't in the actual making of the game. Some publisher companies out there do
Are you? I
actually
feel like you're
make games to.
conflating development with art. Like they
Well,
have
no,
nothing to do with
I
the art piece, but
well, they
they
have
do
nothing to do
have
with the
quite a
actual
lot to
making.
do with making it.
They fund it. They bring the tech. They help the people that are making the game make the game. But like I said, the definition of development is making something, right? They aren't making it. They're helping the people that make it.
Yes, it's why I don't call It's why I don't call publishers developers, but I say that they're integral to the cycle.
Integral to it, sure. I don't think they're a part of it though.
These two words are interchangeable.
I think it's a perspective on that.
I feel like you're being pretty pedantic on this one.
I just, like I said, I get what you're saying in that it makes sense, right? And that it's right. I just, something about it I don't agree with on a wording level. It just doesn't sound right with those words.
Fair
I'm
enough.
not saying you're wrong or anything like that. I'm just saying like the way those words are put together into a sentence, I don't agree with. But like I said, I'm not saying you're wrong.
No. I'm trying to get to even ground, and it's not working out.
Yeah, I just, like I said, you don't worry about it. I'm in. It's just something about that. It's just, I get what you're saying, and I know you're not wrong, but like at the same time, I'm like I don't agree. So it's that's just like I said, it's just a perspective thing I think on my end. Like I don't, the way I look at it, it just doesn't click.
Right.
Don't worry, Dollard. I'm on your side. I understand what you're saying.
I might be the only person out there, right, that sees this angle.
I
maybe
think
maybe
you
one
are,
of our
Matt,
listeners out there,
because you said it
no,
wasn't.
shut up, Matt. Yeah, I am not the only. Like, no, there's somebody out there that will look at it from my angle. Like, but to be fair, I might be the only one. There's probably somebody, but I might be the only one. So it is one of those things. But no, it's like I said, it's a perspective point, right? Like,
Sure.
I don't know. Regardless, publishers do a lot for the making of a game. I will 100% agree. Like stated, like they do the funding, they do a lot of the shaking of hands, and a lot of very critical things to the making of a lot of games, right?
Right,
Like we were
right.
talking about with the crowdfunding, crowd sourcing thing, right? Like a lot of those games end up still having to go through some publishers, right? It ends up coming to that.
Yeah.
Because you need the publisher to make the game, right?
So
Like, it's
a good example for this. If anyone still remembers this fucking game, Lost Soul Aside. It was developed by one guy, but then he teamed up with, I think it was Sony, and now he's got like a team behind him and creating the fucking game now.
yeah, and it's coming along pretty good according to some of the things I've seen on Twitter
Yeah.
recently.
So it's just like his ambitions were fucking big, like bigger, like it was too big for one person. So
My dude had a huge amount of ambitions
my
for one person,
God.
and I respect it. But man,
what a fucking trooper that guy.
I am right. I'm very happy he did end up getting some help here. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like publishers are a critical part to the making of a game, right? They provide a lot to the developers in their making of.
Yes,
the
but
So-
they are very far away from the consumers / the player base, the community compared to developers, and that's somewhat a problem.
yeah, and that's the issue, right? They have a lot of
It-
like
the
they have a lot of,
sway.
I guess, the business sense and whatnot.
Yeah.
But they don't listen to their consumer. Like this is so slight tangent, semi related, right? This was the issue many years ago when I worked at GameStop. And I'm sure people that work at GameStop now might still say the same thing, right? The people up at the top of GameStop who are making the decisions of how they handled trade-ins, how they handled what could trade
Yep.
in, what happened to games, all of this
Yep.
stuff. They didn't play games. They didn't, interact with the customers. They didn't hear what customers wanted. They just, made the financial decisions to keep things
Yep.
going. Ultimately, they failed because GameStop was going under as a company, and if there wasn't that whole stock market thing that happened, that GameStop was going under. Like they were shutting down stores left
Right,
and
right.
right. But there was no communication between that low level and top level thing,
Yeah.
right? And this is a similar situation. Like there's no great amount of communication between the publishers and the fans and the players, and that's causing a desync.
And
that's where a lot of desync.
And the developers are the middleman, or even the first man in some cases, because like publishers just outright be like, "Yeah, I don't fucking care. I don't care. I don't want to hear it."
It's funny saying it like that, right? That disconnect makes me not want to say straight up, "Oh, they're the bad guys." Like it's just like
They're
there's
not the
just
bad
they
guys,
need-
but they just make really fucking stupid decisions. Not most of the time, but like
Friendly
half the
reminder,
time.
contracts are things.
Yeah.
This is why I consistently look like the bad guy in this conversation.
I also wanted to bring up fucking contracts and shit, but like I was just like, oh fuck me, I don't want to get into that.
You sign a deal.
Yes,
every time you
exactly
you bring a publisher on, and you are now beholden to the publisher's
fucking exactly.
investors.
Yep.
Which means you now owe them who owe their investors money.
Yep.
It's a vicious chain, and it's why things get really, really fucked up. And it's why live services are so popular. Because that way everyone gets their money, and the dev team can go on to make another game. The publisher can go on to make an absolute boatload of money whilst paying back their investors.
Yeah. It's yeah, oh man, those contracts are fucking vicious.
But the issue with that, and this goes to the point with CDPR from earlier, that was made, I think, Matthew, you made this, is the contract comes with a date. And sometimes you can push that date forward, sometimes you can't.
Yep.
And so this gets away from... This now gets to the point where, because there's a point in the chain where it's non-artists, the art suffers.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk is kind of that whole story is in of itself a conversation and an episode unto itself, maybe.
Almost certainly.
But it is one of those things. I think it's one of the few times that we see this contract in a specific way, and that way being there's like sometimes these contracts have a date like baked into them. Whatever you're working on, whatever we're backing you on, has to be out by this date, no later.
No exceptions.
And I don't think you see that a whole lot, because I think generally when these contracts are made, if they have those dates, they put those dates so far ahead based on the conversation with the development team,
right,
that they shouldn't hit that date. Even if they have to push a game release back from what they're planning, they shouldn't hit that date. Which is why you do have, game delays and stuff, right? I think CDPR and Cyberpunk is one of the few instances where we actually got to the date in that contract, and they didn't really have a choice of that.
Yep.
Well, we got to that date a couple of times. That was the issue.
Because there was pushbacks. Every time was a couple months, or was it like at least like
3 times?
3 times.
It was pushed back. It was pushed back by a couple of years.
Yes,
the first time.
Okay. I must be misremembering, because I remember just having
maybe
just
a year the first time.
Pushbacks.
It was pushed back. It was pushed back a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Here, I can tell you.
Cyberpunk has a whole bunch of issues that make it kind of unique, even in this talking point.
Yeah.
Which is why it is.
And then you have
something of
the
its own.
exception to
Mhm.
the rule where Yoshi P's like, yeah, we're gonna release the fucking expansion 1 week later after the fucking
No,
Zelda.
because that's a delay. You want to hear a real exception to the rule?
Oh, okay.
Remember that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was bumped up a couple of months. It was bumped forward.
Oh, really?
Like they were like, "We're done. Just release that shit. We're good."
Okay, yeah, I completely fucking forgot about that.
I mean, I don't know if they said that, but goddamn, that's what it felt like when I woke up
Right.
that day and Aqua was like, "By the way, have you seen the date?" What? Oh shit! I wasn't ready for this.
So Witcher 3 came out in 2015. And I think Cyberpunk's original release date was set for 2016.
Oh, I don't know.
So
It could be. That sounds
yeah.
that sounds entirely plausible.
So I don't know what like the original like pushback was, but
Is that no statistics on that?
you have to look
Oh,
look
yeah,
into it, look it
I'm
up
not
to get
fucking
those
doing
kind of
that.
statistics.
I did my
yeah.
research for today and it's all fucking mute now because of the message that happened 43 minutes ago.
It's funny, you know. Um, it's one of those things, right? Like these things are like
Oh,
ever
yeah.
evolving situations. So especially like when we're talking about it, recording about it. Sometimes you do have these things where they change
Mhm.
while we're recording. This is one of those few times where we're talking about something and it didn't change
Yeah,
the day
no,
after.
it happened in real time for us. I don't know about future listeners. They'll be like, "What the fuck are they talking about? That was like 2 months ago."
Hey, when this comes out, yes. Uh, it's
Mm.
it's fun, right? Like then that's we weren't so future casted here. We got caught real time
And
on the change.
this is why
I
we
think it's a
should
good
live
thing.
stream our fucking recordings. That's exactly why, because shit like this. But yeah,
That's a
yeah,
podcast unto
uh,
itself, man.
yeah,
Live streaming it, yeah.
but yeah. Good
Um,
on Dollar for catching that. So yeah,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
good job.
Yes. Thank you for catching that,
Thank you,
Dollar.
Internet, for updating.
Yeah.
The
Right.
internet always updates.
I I can't help but still be like skeptical of publishers, right?
Always.
And as well, you should
Um,
be.
Yes,
Because
exactly.
especially recently, we have been given every reason to see that they are almost exclusively the reason why a game that isn't just awful off the bat fails.
Yep.
Like, fucking, not Sea of Thieves. What is it?
Skull and Bones.
Skull and Bones is a failure because it's a mess of a game that was in development for too long and recycled too many times.
Mm-hmm.
But
the first quadruple
Yeah.
A
yeah,
game
what are you
failed.
gonna do?
Wow, who would have
Whereas
guessed?
the potential failure of Helldivers was exclusively an issue that Sony would have created itself.
Yeah.
And we see that a lot.
So it's like obviously we have this issue with publishers. I'm also looking at it from a writing perspective because I mentioned books a lot of times when talking about the publishers before when we were trying to like meet that middle ground, right? I was talking about the books with
All right.
publishers a lot, right? Because it I like you don't hear a lot about it in the book world, as far as I'm aware. Maybe I'm just ignorant to it. But I mean, like if you look over into the manga world and manga artists and what the publisher for a lot of manga artists used to be like, it's a sketchy thing there too. Better now than it was, right? You don't have as many manga artists getting sick from being forced to meet
Yeah,
deadlines
working
and
yourself to
stuff.
death and all that. Yeah.
But yeah, but it's that was the publisher there doing it. So it's one of those things that, like, publishers are, I hate this phrase. I really hate this phrase, but publishers are kind of like a necessary evil a lot of times. So
I
um,
think they're only necessary evils because of contracts, but I'm talking specifically for video game publishers. I'm not entirely too sure on like books, like just books in general, whether it's manga or like real books. So yeah.
Like I said, it's hard for me to say for books. I don't hear a lot of bad things on the actual book department, and even the manga side is older.
Self-publishing is hard. It's easier to have a publisher to help
Yep,
with some extra
exactly
funds
right.
and for marketing.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's very true for games too. Like, not ever you see very few self-published games that really make a
Well, I
wave,
mean,
right?
Fear and Hunger, but that took its time because that was on itch.io and Steam for a little bit before popular streamers fucking found it and played it and gave it limelight. And I'm just like, oh, okay.
That's the thing about games, right? Like, for the self-publishing side of things, even if somebody is able to pick it up and put it in front of people in the streamer category of things, or YouTubers or whatever, then that independent self-published thing can
Yeah.
become a huge success. But that's kind of a topic into itself too, isn't
Yeah.
it? Right. But yeah, this has been a fun one. We came in here
Ready to fucking
ranting and
rip
raving about
into
above
Sony,
publishers, ready to rip into Sony, and to be fair, we were ripping
rightfully
into
so.
Sony, just to see a live update. So that's a fun one.
Yeah.
Quick update. This does not make Sony good. Fuck where their heads was at, and potentially fuck this idea going forward
Yep.
in games before they come out
Yep.
to seem somewhat justifiable.
Yep.
Just in case anyone was curious.
100% third.
I second.
Because when Ghost of Tsushima comes out, and this is a de facto need for the multiplayer, it's going to be every bit as, like, we don't want it. The only difference will be it'll have been there from the beginning and it'll be really hard to argue against. Still scummy.
Yeah. Keep in mind, they have changed their FAQ. This is now in their FAQ, in their, probably most of their contracts
TOS and all that shit,
what's that term? The fine print of the descriptions of their games and stuff that you will need.
The terms of service.
So keep that in mind going forward too. It may not apply to already released games. It may not apply to Helldivers 2. It very likely could be a thing with every Sony title going forward on PC. So very much worth remembering, and everything Dalit said. Second.
Absolutely agreed.
Yeah. Any, I guess, closing comments on any of this, you guys?
Still fuck Sony and fuck publishers for the most part. They can be good, but shit like this is not on. And I don't think publishers are going to hear this, but if they somehow fucking do not do what Sony just did. All right, that it's just that simple.
Or alternatively, do what they did in the essence that they backtracked and listened to the fans.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, that's my closing thoughts.
Dalit,
those were my closing thoughts. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, all right. Well, this has been a fun one, and probably one of our most active episodes, I guess, because talking about it and the events as they're happening, it was different. So hopefully you all listening at home enjoyed that change of pace, I guess, because like I said, it was different. It was a fun one, but yeah, give us your thoughts. Give us, what you think on the whole situation, what your opinion, all of that. You can leave it in the comment side on YouTube. You can add us over on Twitter. We have a hashtag for your own topic ideas, requests, and you can use all of that as well. And yeah, we just appreciate you all hanging out, listening. As always, you are appreciated. Hey, publishers may not appreciate you. They might only appreciate your money, but we appreciate you because, hey, you sit here and listen to us, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you, listeners.
Be good now.
Yep. Peace, y'all.
Bye-bye.